So Donald Trump, I have a million things that I want to say about this, and normally I would just say them, but I'm actually going to hold myself back because I feel more compelled to say a number of other things that are not going to create consternation or debate or frustrate people. And the thing I want to say, well, let me just backtrack. Again, lots of things I want to say. The thing I'm going to say is that when there is a high stress situation, when there is a political year, any political year, it's crazy, right? Everybody is at each other's throats. They're fighting about everything. But right now, this is in really the most epic of high gears because people are incredibly frustrated with the state of the country, where things are going. And there are a lot of allegations and claims about things being rigged. And, even if you're not in that camp, you may be in the camp of I'm having a hard time paying for my groceries, for my gas, for my bills, right? People are really hurting. And so I say all of that because there are a lot of emotions that are at play right now in the midst of all of this. And we have to weigh that and understand that. And I know for me, my limit when I'm frustrated about politics or I have strong viewpoints or feelings, those can manifest in really unhealthy ways. And so I'm speaking here to everybody, but really in particular, I'm speaking to Christians because that's what I am. I'm a Christian and I'm called to do my best to be like Jesus and to follow God. And that's what Christians are called to. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. For those of you who aren't Christians, it doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes. We are sinners. We are going to make errors, but our goal is to be like Jesus and to follow who Jesus was and not this idealized cultural idea of who Jesus was, right? This Jesus who had no rules or regulations and just told everybody to do whatever made them feel good. That's not who the Bible tells us Jesus was. We see that Jesus, as God, calls us to truth and to love. And it's really easy to bear on one of those more than the other. And that's a whole other conversation. But what I want to talk about is something that we actually see in the book of James. And if you're not a Christian, bear with me. I think this is important for everybody. But again, really for Christians, in James 3, it talks about taming the tongue. The tongue is basically an out of control organ of the body that can set the entire forest on fire, as we are told in James. And anybody who is anybody knows that we can hurt people with our tongue. And so when tensions are high, it's really easy for us to tweet, to Facebook, I'm sorry, to X. I don't even know what it's called now on X, formerly known as Twitter, to go on social media, to fight with people. We're all tempted to do that because we have a lot of emotions running high. But there's something else in James 3. It talks about the taming of the tongue. And just a couple of things I want to point out. I have it right in front of me. Um, if you go to James 3, verses 9 to 12, with the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who have been made in God's likeness. I want to pause there because I think about the people who are out there rejoicing over somebody's misfortune, or maybe if somebody's punished, rejoicing over it and saying that person, and obviously I'm talking about Trump here, that person deserves it. Like rejoicing in somebody else's misfortune, even if it's of their own volition. I don't know. Is that a good thing to be doing? But also fighting with people who disagree. So if you're a supporter of Trump, lambasting everybody who is agreeing with the verdict against him, attacking people. It says here, human beings who have been made in God's likeness, that with our tongue, we're over here praising God and then we're cursing other human beings. That shouldn't be. Verse 10 says, out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. So, I mean, it's a little convicting because we can all be a little bit double minded, a little bit double tongued on this. It goes on to say, my brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, verse 12, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. It goes on to talk about two different kinds of wisdom. And again, I have a million opinions about this Trump thing, okay, and what I think is going on and what I think is bad for the country right now. But I want to push that again to the side to say we've got two different kinds of wisdom. And it says in verse 13, who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom, in quotes, does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. Actually, it says that. For where you have where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder in every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure. Let's focus on this. The wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial, and sincere. I'm going to read that list again: peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial, and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. We're called to be peacemakers. It doesn't mean we can't have an opinion. It doesn't mean we can't speak out about what we think is happening. But we've got to remember that the people that God created, those with whom we agree and disagree, He loves. And we've got to be praying for people to have clearer minds and clearer hearts when it comes to some of the big social issues of the day, some of the big political issues of the day. But when it comes to these very emotional, flammable things, if we're not willing to take a step back and see people as being created and loved by God, and again, I'm not preaching to you because I'm perfect. I fail at this all the time. So this is a good reminder. And I felt compelled to kind of go back to this and talk about this instead of getting on and talking about the verdict and what I really think of it. I think we need to be peacemakers as best we can. That doesn't mean not having an opinion. It doesn't mean being walked all over. It doesn't mean, just staying on the sidelines. I think we need to be engaged and talk about all of these things, but remembering that peace is what we're called to, and love, and of course truth. But you've got to have a mixture of both of those things. So I don't know. Just as we're navigating these insane waters, I'm hopeful that we can ponder that a little deeper and act on that and just love one another. It's going to be a rough year, guys, and this is just the first of the criminal trial. So there's more to come, and I think we've got to really take a step back and just recognize that there are a lot of spiritual dimensions. Ephesians 6 talks about the battle between good and evil. We are watching that play out. I think we're going to continue to see that in many of the issues that are happening. There's nothing new under the sun, but there are certainly new iterations of the chaos, and we're experiencing that right now. So that's my word for tonight. Oh, and go, if you haven't already, subscribe to my Substack. If you go to billyhallowell.com, you click on blog. I think it's also billyhallowell.substack.com. You'll find it there. I've got newsletters coming out. I've got devotionals that'll be coming out. Lots of content. It's free. There's a paid version too, but it's free. Subscribe over there. Again, billyhallowell.com. I'm sure I'll be back with another video soon. And if you see me violating any of these tenets, call me out on social media, please. I need people to be making sure that I'm staying on the straight and narrow as well with all of this. So have a good night. Don't be too stressed out. Remember, God will give you peace. And at the end of the day, all this politics, I have no idea why there are balloons coming up there. That's bizarre. There are balloons on the screen. Very weird. I guess we're celebrating. But I will be back very soon with another video.